Very good evening, all of you. Hope you all are doing well. Let's start with today's session. Today, we are going to start with one new topic that is functions. Okay, functions in Python. Okay, if you remember, very first lecture in that we have mentioned that Python is high level language, Python is interpreted language, Python is general purpose, and Python is multi-paradigm programming language. So in Python, you can write general structured scripts, which we were doing till now. In Python, you can write procedure-oriented programming. In Python, you can write object-oriented programming also. Object-oriented, we will do it later after completing this. So what I want to say that in Python, you can do procedure-oriented coding, object-oriented coding. So that procedure-oriented programming, that's what we are going to learn in this module. Okay? So what are functions? Or you can call it as procedures or subroutines or subprograms. So many names are there. Okay? So it is a named code block. Some code block is there, and to that code block, you have given some meaningful name. Okay, so you can say it is a named code block, and that code block is performing some specific task. Okay, it is doing some specific task. The task can be simple task, or it can be some complicated business logic. Simple calculations are there, loops are there, nested loops are there. Anything it can be. So it is a named code block, and that code block is performing some specific task, but that task will be performed only when you call it, this code block with that name. So whenever you call it with that name, that code will get executed. Okay. The task is performed only whenever it is called. So calling means you are requesting it to get executed. Whenever you are calling any procedure, meaning you are requesting it to get executed, whatever the task is written within it. Correct? And whenever you're calling it, at that time you can pass some values to it so that that code block can perform operation on that values. Okay, so that is called as arguments. And this code block, after doing some task, at the end it can return some answer also. Okay, can, it's not necessary. So whatever code block you have written, at the end, it will return some result as well. Okay? And at the time when you're calling, you can pass some values to it. Okay? So basic, I've shared the screen. Terminology, I hope you got it. Right? So what is a function? So it is a named code block. It's a code block to that some meaningful name you have given, and that code block is performing some specific task. And when it will perform that task, only whenever you're calling. Means you define the procedure, but only defining is not sufficient. To bring it in action, you have to call it. So you can call it any number of times. Once defined, once you define the procedure, as many times as you want, you can call it. Getting? So what a lot of benefits you'll get. What benefits you'll get, I'll tell you. Okay? So in short, what is the code? And whenever you're calling, at that time you can pass some values to it so that that code block will perform the action on those values. And at the end, it may return also some result. Get it? So now the question is why we need procedures. Lot of benefits are there. One important benefit is to avoid redundancy of the code or repetition of the logic. Like in your program, if there are some logics which are used many times, only they are operated on different value. वो ऑपरेट सिर्फ अलग अलग वैल्यू पे हो रहा है बट टास्क सेम परफॉर्म कर रहा है करेक्ट तो इंस्टेड ऑफ डिफाइनिंग द टास्क दैट मेनी टाइम्स you can define it once and call it any number of times. चाहिए उतनी बार कॉल करो, डिफाइन एक बार करो. Get it? So procedures are avoiding repetitions of logic, or procedures are avoiding redundancy of the code. Get it? I'll give you a simple example, quick example. Like someone has told you to write a program to add two matrix, add two matrices. I hope you know what is a matrix. Okay. Matrix is a mathematical object where arrangement of numbers is done in rows and column form, right? Whenever you're arranging the numbers in which form? Rows and column form. So that arrangement of numbers in that row column form is called as matrix. And someone has told you to do addition of two matrices, right? So obviously first you'll write logic to accept first matrix, accept matrix A. Now to accept it, you cannot just write one input statement. There are many elements in it. So to accept one element, you'll write one input. This way, as many columns, you'll write a loop for it. And then as many row, you'll write a loop within a loop. You'll write a nested loop, right? Inner loop will accept as many elements are there in one row. And like that, we have to do it how many times? As many rows are there. तो जितने रोज है उतने ये एक लूप, और हर रो में जितने कॉलम्स है उसके लिए अंदर वाला लूप. ठीक है, you have written that logic to accept that matrix. Getting? But you have to do addition of two matrices. So obviously you will write logic for accepting matrix B. So when you will observe that for accepting B matrix also the logic is same, only the matrix is changing. Right or no? Then third, you will do addition of that two matrices. And then you will print the matrix. So for printing, okay, printing first matrix, printing second matrix, printing third matrix, the first, the second, and the result. Again, you will observe that for printing that matrix, the logic is same for B matrix, same for C matrix. Only the matrix is changing. The matrices on which you are working, the matrix is changing, but the logic is same. वही logic तीन बार लिखना पड़ रहा है. Getting? So instead of that, if you study the problem like this, that your problem is a complex problem and it is made up of smaller problem. In real life also, the same approach you have to follow, divide and conquer. जैसे अज्यूम करो घर में मैरिज सेरेमनी है, तो कोई एक सीनियर पर्सन है, उसने ही डिसाइड किया सब कुछ मैं ही करूंगा, तो वो फ्लॉप शो होता है. बट अगर उस सीनियर पर्सन ने जॉब्स को डिवाइड किया, एक एक टास्क है इनविटेशंस, सेकंड है केटरिंग, थर्ड है डेकोरेशन, ऐसे डिवाइड किया एंड फिर फैमिली के अलग अलग लोगों को वो अलॉट किया that please you take care of invitation, you take care of decoration, you take care of catering, then the function is going to be very well managed. Get it? So same thing here, you're dividing the problem into smaller problem. First problem you will call as accepting the matrix. Second, addition of matrix. And third, printing. Get it? And for all three, you'll write a separate procedures or functions. ठीक है? Accepting के लिए एक procedure लिख दोगे, addition के लिए एक लिखोगे, and printing के लिए एक लिखोगे. एक procedure printing के लिए, एक addition के लिए, एक accept के लिए. तीन procedures लिख दिए. Now in your main program, you'll just call them as many times as you want. अगर accepting दो बार है तो ये प्रोसीजर को सिर्फ दो बार कॉल करना है. ये एक ही बार लग रहा है तो कॉल वन टाइम. प्रिंटिंग तीन बार है तो जस्ट कॉल इट थ्री टाइम. यू डोंट हैव टू डिफाइन इट थ्री टाइम. डिफाइन एक ही बार करो, कॉल तीन बार करो, एंड एवरी टाइम व्हेन यू कॉल you'll पास डिफरेंट पैरामीटर टू इट. फर्स्ट टाइम कॉल करोगे तो ए मैट्रिक्स भेजोगे, सेकेंड टाइम तो बी मैट्रिक्स, थर्ड टाइम सी मैट्रिक्स. सो व्हाट विल हैपन, द सेम टास्क is just working on different values. अलग अलग पैरामीटर्स पे वो काम कर रहा है. तो आपको तीन बार वो लॉजिक लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. यू जस्ट हैव टू राइट it how many times? Once. And you have to just call it 3 times. And every time when you call, you just pass different parameter. First time you'll pass matrix A, second time you'll pass matrix B, you'll call matrix C. So in this approach, you can see the repetition is avoided, redundancy of logic. यही लॉजिक जो 3 बार लिखना था वो आपने एक ही बार लिखा है और 3 बार कॉल किया. You have defined it once and just called it 3 times. Accepting, defined once and called it 2 times. So with this approach, function approach, what benefit you get? Redundancy of the code. Repetition of the logic is avoided. One. Second, code becomes manageable. Getting? Like if suppose you want to make any changes, you don't have to make change everywhere. अगर आपने यही कोड 3 बार लिखा है और चेंज करना है तो तीनों जगह पे चेंज करना पड़ेगा. Now you just have to make change at one place. The changes are reflected at all three. Here also, you have to make the change at one place. The changes are reflected at both the places. Not only that, bug fixing. If you find out that there is some logical error, so you don't have to fix at every place. Fix at one place. एक ही जगह पे फिक्स किया तो वो changes automatic सब जगह पे reflect होगा. तो bug fixing becomes easy. कोड मैनेजेबल होता है. मेन कोड एलिगेंट दिखता है. द मेन कोड लुक्स, you can say it looks more readable and elegant. Understanding? Clear? So I hope you got it. मैं example you can say and redundant abstraction भी मिलता है कि वो जो कुछ लॉजिक है वो फंक्शंस में हाइड कर दिया एंड मेन प्रोग्राम में आप जस्ट वो फंक्शंस कॉल कर रहे हैं. Like assume mom is preparing food. Suppose mom डाइनिंग टेबल पे ही प्रिपेयर करे और वहीं आपको सर्व भी कर रही है. इट इज टोटली नॉट मैनेजेबल और पूरा शैबी होता है. तो उसकी जगह पे अगर उसने पूरा किचन में प्रिपेयर किया सब कुछ एंड सब कुछ बोल में ट्रांसफर किया एंड फिर वो बोल डाइनिंग टेबल पे अरेंज किया तो इट लुक्स मोर एलिगेंट एंड क्लीन. और ये भी पता नहीं चलता है कि वो कैसे प्रिपेयर किया है. वॉट एवर प्रिपेयर करके रेडी टेबल पे लाके रखा है. वो पूरा प्रिपरेशन किचन में हाइड हो गया. You understanding? No? Only whatever is prepared, she has kept it on the dining table and served to you. So it looks more cleaner, more elegant. Getting clear? So all these are the benefits which you get by writing procedures. So one benefit you get, redundancy avoided, repetition of logic avoided. Code becomes more elegant, readable, main code. Code becomes manageable. कोड मैनेज ठीक से कर सकते हो. चेंजेस अगर करना है तो एक ही जगह पे चेंजेस करना है, सब जगह पे नहीं. क्योंकि आपने कोड सब जगह पे रिपीट नहीं किया है ना, एक ही जगह पे लिखा है, सिर्फ कॉल 3 बार किया. करेक्ट? बग फिक्सिंग बिकम्स इजी एंड प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग अप्रोच ऑल्सो बिकम्स बेटर. कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम्स रहेंगे तो यू कैन डिवाइड दैट प्रॉब्लम इनटू स्मॉलर प्रॉब्लम, बिग प्रॉब्लम इनटू स्मॉलर प्रॉब्लम. Understanding? And then for each small problem, you can write separate procedures. Okay. So I hope you are getting the basic idea why we have to write functions. So what is a function? That is clear. So it is a named code block. It's a code block. That code block is performing some specific task, but it will perform the task only whenever you call it. And at the time of calling, you can pass values to it. And after performing the task, it may return also some value to you. Okay. So how to write these functions in Python, how to call them, how to define them, how to pass different parameters, all one by one we will be learning. Okay. So a function is a named code block which performs specific task whenever called. Calling means you are requesting it to get executed. Whenever you're calling, you're requesting to the Python interpreter that please run the code. Correct? So call means execution ke liye request. So whenever you're calling means the procedure is going to get executed. Okay. So it is a named code block. It is performing some specific task, but when it will perform the task only whenever you ठीक है? Then, whenever you're calling, you can pass parameters to it. You can pass any data called parameter, right? And this function, after performing the task at the end, it may return also some result. Get it? So function can return data as a result back to its caller. Caller means जहां आपने वो function को call किया. ठीक है? Now functions are actually categorized into two types. One is called as a built-in function and another is called as user-defined function. Now, built-in functions means functions which are already developed by someone. They are ready-made functions. Ready-made, you can say. Already developed by someone. They are coming along with the Python installation. means जब Python install किया तो वो functions भी आ गए. And you can directly use them. You don't have to define them. You will just call them any number of time. चाहिए उतनी बार आप कॉल कर सकते हो. क्या करने की जरूरत नहीं है. डिफाइन, क्योंकि किसी और ने ऑलरेडी डिफाइन किया है एंड रेडीमेड बना के आपको दे दिया है. ऑलरेडी द फंक्शंस आर डेवलप्ड एंड दे हैव जस्ट प्रोवाइडेड इट टू यू फॉर यूजिंग इट. You use it. ठीक है? You don't bother about defining it. It is same like going to a DMart or a Star Bazaar, right or no? DMart को जब जाते हो तो everything is already there. Whatever you want, you pick it and add it in the trolley, pay, bring it, and use it. You're not bothered about how it is developed, right or no? Like Swiggy या Zomato पे आपने कुछ food order किया है, तो you just order the food, then some hotel where the order is gone, they prepare it, and the person come at the door, you just take it, you enjoy it. You're not bothered about how it is being developed, right or no? Ready-made किसी ने बना के दे दिया. ठीक है? So there are built-in functions. Many are there. We have learned so many built-in functions, guys, till now. जैसे सबसे पहले लाइफ में हमने सबसे पहला built-in function print सीखा. याद है ना? And to print we pass values. And what does that print do? It displays all that value on the monitor, but it doesn't return anything. फिर हमने input भी तो देखा था. Input. We give some prompt to it and it returns whatever you have inputted, it returns, you collect it in a variable. So input, print, कितने और functions पढ़े हैं ना, to print the address of any variable, ID, data type of any variable, type, no? I hope you remember. किसी iterable के अंदर कितने elements है, तो length, these all are built-in functions. Means these are ready-made functions developed by someone, provided to you, you are just using it. आप सिर्फ उसको use कर दो. And second are user-defined functions. Now, user-defined functions means functions which are developed by the programmer as per the requirement. जैसे requirement है, उसके हिसाब से programmer ने उसको develop किया. So programmer is only developing it and programmer is calling it. Built-in में develop someone, we are just calling it. हमसे उसका benefit ले रहे हैं. Understanding? Clear? So built-in functions means functions which are already developed by someone. They are already provided with your Python installation. We just call it in our program. We are not bothered about how it is developed. We cannot modify it. We don't know the logic that is abstract. हमसे उसका benefit ले रहे हैं. We are just calling. And user-defined functions means functions which are defined by the programmer as per the requirement. Getting? Okay. Like again, I'll relate it to real life. Whenever you go to a shopping mall to purchase any clothes, so if you go to that mall, in that different brand clothes are there with different sizes and all. So if you're comfortable with that brand and the sizes, you go, you try with different sizes. Yes or no? Trial लेते हो मॉल में उधर से ट्रायल रूम रहता है तो you pick up that dress whichever you are suitable with. If you're convinced with कि कोई एक बहुत अच्छा लग गया तो you buy it, you pay that, you buy and you use it. But that cloth you have not made it. Means वो ड्रेस हमने नहीं बनाया किसी और ने रेडी बना के रखा है बट हमें उसमें से चाहिए तो हम पिक करते हैं परचेस कर लेते हैं. But if none of them are not suitable for us, जितने भी है कोई फिटिंग नहीं आ रहा है या कलर ही नहीं अच्छा लग रहा है या whatever, then many times what you do, you go to the tailor and you customize and make it. है ना, अपना अपना measurements देते हो, right? You select your cloth, you give your design, you give the measurements, and फिर tailor से बना के लेते हो. So that is user defined. अंडरस्टैंडिंग कोडिंग में भी वैसी है, अपने रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से जो फंक्शंस लिखे हैं दे आर यूजर डिफाइंड एंड ऑलरेडी समवन हैज मेड इट, वी आर जस्ट कॉलिंग देम, दे आर बिल्ट इन. ठीक है, तो मेनली वी विल बी फोकसिंग ऑन यूजर डिफाइंड फंक्शंस ओनली इन दिस मॉड्यूल, लाइक how to create user defined functions and all. See, so user defined functions one, and second is built-in function. Please remember, built-in functions means functions already provided in your Python installation, or sometimes you install it also. Internet से download करके install करते हो by peek command. But we are not developing. We are just using it by calling it. हम develop नहीं कर रहे, develop किसी और ने किया. And user defined, we are only defining it and we are only calling it as per the requirement. अपनी जो requirement है, accordingly we are defining it and then we call it. ठीक है? So I hope you got it. Now we will be mainly focusing on user defined. What are user defined, how to define them, how to call them, सब कुछ देखेंगे. Meantime, just we'll go through the advantages. So if you remember, you can tell me अगर याद रहे, advantages अगर याद रहेंगे. If you want, you can unmute and tell me. Okay, it avoids redundancy. ठीक है. So one advantage is said that repetition of the logic, the same logic which you write again, instead of writing it again, define it once in the function and call it any number of times. So redundancy avoided.
Avoiding repetition.
That's what, no? Redundancy means a repetition. Right?
Reducing number of lines that are used in the code.
Ultimately means what you're saying, ultimately because of this, as you have avoided redundancy, जो repetition था वो आपने avoid किया by putting it in a function and just calling that function. So your main code becomes elegant, clean, and ultimately it becomes small in size. So ultimately the overall code size will become smaller and the time needed for interpretation for your Python interpreter will become less. So these are ultimate advantages, right? You're absolutely right. Then any other advantages?
We don't have to write the logic again and again. Like if we just create a function, it will be saved. The
So
only thing
that's
is that
what
we
the
have
same, I mean, it's the same thing you're again trying to tell, that it is avoiding redundancy, repetition, right or no? Some logic which you want to write again and again. So why to write that logic again and again? Define it once only in the function and call the function as many number of times as you want. So ultimately, all these are based on that one line only, avoids redundancy or avoids repetition of code or promotes reusability. Reusability. Reusability means समझ में आया ना कि एक बार डिफाइन करो चाहिए उतनी बार कॉल करो. तो ये सब कुछ घूम फिर के एक ही पॉइंट पे है. ओके,
Codes become manageable.
manageable. Getting means if you want to make any changes, you don't have to make change everywhere. Just make the change at one place. The changes are reflected everywhere. Bug fixing, fix the bug at one place. Automatically everywhere the bugs fixed. Get it? You don't have to do the bug fixing everywhere. क्योंकि आपने वो redundancy avoid किया ना by writing function once only. And then it also helps in solving complex problems. You can solve that complex problem by dividing it into smaller problem. And for each small problem, you can write separate functions. Okay? Okay. So avoid repetition of code. The logic which you are again going to write, you can avoid it by functions. Program readability increase. The main code looks more elegant, na guys? आपने functions ऊपर लिख दिया, define किया, फिर main code में just call कर दो. So your main code looks more cleaner, elegant code, readable code. complex problems you can divide into smaller problem. जैसे कहा कि आपका problem था addition of two matrices. So instead of solving it as one single program, better divide it into smaller. Like one task, accept matrix. Another task, add matrix. Third, print the matrix. ऐसे तीन task के तीन functions लिख लिए. Then in the main code you call them. So the same printing function you can call three times for three different matrices. Correct? तो reusability मिलता है. Does it give you reusability? Yes. Okay. Reduces chances of error. Modifying program becomes easier because everywhere you don't have to make the changes. एक ही जगह पे change करो, वही changes सब जगह पे reflect होगा जहां जहां वो procedure call किया है. Correct? So a lot of benefits you get. Now coming to user-defined function, because mainly we have to focus on that only. Okay? Our main focus will be on user-defined functions. So what are user-defined functions? Functions which are developed by the programmer as per the requirement. Means you can say custom. I told you, जब clothes नहीं पसंद आ रहे, तो you go to like Diwali is coming or whatever, and कपड़े खरीद नहीं है by any means. So when you go to the mall and none of the brand and none of the sizes and colors and कुछ भी नहीं fit हो रहा है, so then you go to the tailor and you give your cloth, अपने हिसाब से क्लॉथ दोगे, अपने हिसाब से मेजरमेंट दोगे, डिजाइन्स खुद के दोगे, and then accordingly you make it from the tailor. Same. So if you don't have any task already from the built-in में से कोई भी काम का नहीं है, तो फिर खुद बनाना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? तो user defined functions are functions defined by the programmer as per the requirement. ठीक है? The functions created by programmer based on the requirement are known as user-defined functions. Okay? Now, always remember user-defined functions are first defined, पहले define and then call. Define when you do, that time you are telling the logic what that function is supposed to do. What logic this function is supposed to perform, that you will give it in the definition. And when you call, you are requesting it to get executed. जब बोलते कॉल तो कंट्रोल वहां जाएगा, फिर वो लॉजिक एग्जीक्यूट होगा एंड वापस आएगा. करेक्ट? कॉलिंग कैन बी डन एनी नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स एज यू वांट. यही फंक्शन चाहिए उतनी बार कॉल कर सकते हो. डिफाइन वंस, कॉल एनी नंबर ऑफ टाइम. तो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर यूजर डिफाइंड फंक्शंस आर डिफाइंड फर्स्ट and then called any number of times. Calling means it is a request to get executed. Whatever logic is there inside it will get executed. Understanding? And at the time of call, if you want, you can pass some values to it. At the end, it may return something that you can collect. Whatever it has returned, you can collect it in some temporary variable. Okay? Now, the syntax I'll tell you, but always remember user defined functions दो part होता है. पहले function define करना है and then you have to call it. Only defining no use. सिर्फ define करके रखा है and you are not taking the benefit of it. You are not calling it. There is no use of it. Understanding, guys? Okay. Like you have purchased a BMW or you're bike addicted, then you have purchased a Hayabusa or a Harley Davidson, but just वो बाइक खरीद के पार्किंग में सिर्फ लगा के रखा है, and every day I go and just see it. What is the use? Getting? तो बाइक से purchase करके पार्किंग में लगा means you have just defined it. But when you ignite it, keys डालते हो, ignite करते हो, gear में डाल के घुमा के लेके आते हो, means you are taking the benefit of that bike. Getting or no? The same way, here we define it and then we call it. As many times as you want, you can call. ठीक है? अब define कैसे करते हैं उसका syntax में quickly बताता हूँ. How we define a function in Python. So we have to write def keyword. Def is a keyword. Okay? Def keyword indicates that from here the definition of function starts. then you have to give name of the function. ठीक है? Whatever name you want, but it should be a valid identifier. एक valid identifier होना चाहिए. Meaning समझ में आया ना कि it should follow the naming rule. Naming rule in the sense, combination of letters, digit, underscore, cannot start with a digit, cannot be a reserved word, case sensitive. जो भी अपने identifier के rules हैं, वो follow हो गया. Then after that, round bracket, open and close. Open round bracket, close round bracket. This is just to enlist the parameters which you are going to pass to that function. तो अगर आप पैरामीटर्स देने वाले रहोगे तो वो पैरामीटर्स की लिस्ट यहां लिख सकते हैं. पैरामीटर्स क्या वेरिएबल्स है. दे आर वेरिएबल्स इन विच द वैल्यू विल कम एट द टाइम ऑफ कॉल. जब ये फंक्शन कॉल करोगे तो दैट टाइम यू विल पास द वैल्यूज. दैट वैल्यूज विल बी कमिंग इन दिस पैरामीटर्स एंड यू कैन यूज दोज इनसाइड द बॉडी. फंक्शन के बॉडी के अंदर ये पैरामीटर्स यूज कर सकते हैं. But it is optional. Not necessary every function will take parameter. हो सकता है कि कुछ functions parameters नहीं लेते. Correct? तो colon, which indicate the header line is complete, and then indent करना. Indent means tab देके body लिखना है. Procedure की जो भी body रहेगी. So the body is any logic. It can be simple calculations. It can be loops. It can be nested loop. Any business logic. Okay, and at the end, there can be optional return statement also. Return and return some value, which is optional. Not necessary every function. Not necessary every function will return some value. हो सकता है ऐसा फंक्शन है जो कुछ रिटर्न नहीं करता है. Like print. Print देखा है ना? Print doesn't return anything. Therefore, it returns by default none. तो ये ऑप्शनल है, रिटर्न सम वैल्यू. तो ऑन इन डिटेल अबाउट रिटर्न वी विल बी टॉकिंग. व्हाट इज रिटर्न, देन हाउ इट वर्क्स, एवरीथिंग. सेम लाइक ब्रेक एंड कंटिन्यू. हमने ब्रेक पढ़ा है, कंटिन्यू पढ़ा है. यू रिमेंबर ना, ब्रेक इन लूप्स वी हैव स्टडीड. So within the loop, if break is there, does it terminate the loop and come out of the loop? Continue. Does it skip the loop body and come back to the beginning of the loop? वैसे ही फ्लो ट्रांसफर इंस्ट्रक्शंस है ये रिटर्न. तो इसके बारे में बात करेंगे. बट दिस इज द सिंटैक्स. def is a keyword, then the name of the function, a round bracket, then the parameters list. These parameters are variables which you can use inside the body. ये body के अंदर ये variables use, and what will come in these parameters? Values which you will pass at the time of call. कॉल के समय कुछ वैल्यूज पास करोगे वो इसमें आ जाएगा. ओके, नाउ वंस द फंक्शन इज डिफाइंड. तो डिफाइनिंग मींस व्हाट? बेसिकली यू आर टेलिंग व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ माय फंक्शन, व्हाट पैरामीटर्स इट इज गोइंग टू टेक, व्हाट एक्शन इट इज गोइंग टू परफॉर्म. वो क्या एक्शन परफॉर्म करने वाला है, वो प्रोसीजर का नाम क्या है, वो प्रोसीजर के पैरामीटर्स क्या है, एंड एट द एंड व्हाट इट इज गोइंग टू रिटर्न. ऑल दैट थिंग व्हेन यू आर टेलिंग मींस यू आर डिफाइनिंग. Then you have to call it. ठीक है, कॉल कैसे करना है? जस्ट यू हैव टू राइट फंक्शन नेम. ठीक है, एंड देन हियर यू कैन पास वैल्यूज. दे आर कॉल्ड एज आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. तो यहां से वैल्यूज पास करोगे. दैट वैल्यूज विल कम इन द पैरामीटर. Whatever values are there, they are called as arguments. They will come in parameter. मीन्स यहां से अगर मैंने 2,3 लिखा है तो वो 2 इधर कोई पैरामीटर में आएगा, 3 यहाँ कोई पैरामीटर में, एंड देन यू कैन यूज इट विद इन द बॉडी. एंड व्हेन यू आर कॉलिंग इट, कॉलिंग मींस जस्ट सिंपली मेंशनिंग द नेम, राउंड ब्रैकेट एंड पासिंग वैल्यू. द कंट्रोल विल कम टू द प्रोसीजर. It will perform the procedure, and when the procedure is over, it will come back to the place where it is called. काम पूरा हो गया तो जहां कॉल किया वहां आ जाएगा. And after that it will continue with the next code, whatever. तो अभी next code अगर assignment है तो इसमें जो कुछ रिटर्न किया है वो यहाँ assign करेगा and continue with the next statement, whatever the next statement is. So whenever the function is called, You are requesting it to get executed. And calling can be done any number of times. That is what we are avoiding repetition, which is said. Ultimately, हम लोग एक ही line के ऊपर बात कर रहे थे. It avoids redundancy or repetition of code. The same logic, if you are supposed to write many times, don't write many times. Define it once only in the function and call the function as many times as you want. Isn't it? So whenever you're calling, the control is transferred to that function. The function is executed. When the function is over, the control will come back to the place where the function was called. जहां कॉल है वहां कंट्रोल आएगा एंड उसके आगे का जो भी स्टेटमेंट है वहां से कंटिन्यू करेगा. Whatever is the statement after that call, it will resume its logic. यहाँ का काम अभी सस्पेंडेड था तो वो resume हो जाएगा and it will continue with the remaining code. ठीक है? तो I hope you understand how it is getting defined and how it is getting called. Then in detail about the parameters, then the arguments, everything I'll tell you. Okay? So see, the syntax is like this. Def is a keyword, then the name of the function, then round bracket, then optional list of parameters. Just name of the parameter dena hai. Okay? There is no need to mention data type or anything. अभी मॉडर्न पाइथन है ना, लेटेस्ट जो पाइथन है, इसमें आप लोग सिर्फ हिंट के तौर पे ऐसे लिख सकते हैं, इंट कोलन एक्स, बट स्टिल इट इज नॉट कंपल्सरी. ऐसे हिंट के तौर पे लिख सकते हो, फ्लोट कोलन वाई, just to give a hint that in x integer is going to come, in y float, but no compulsion. समझा ना? ये जस्ट एक हिंट है. स्टिल पाइथन लूजली टाइप ही है. मीन्स कॉल करते समय इंट की जगह पे कुछ और पास किया ना, पाइथन कुछ एरर नहीं देगा, स्टिल वो अदर वैल्यू एक्स में आ जाएगा. लाइक यहां अगर मैंने राम पास किया विच इज स्ट्रिंग, स्टिल ये इसमें आ जाएगा भले आपने यहां इंट लिखा है. ये जस्ट एक रीडेबिलिटी के लिए, मैंने हिंट के लिए कि यहां इंट जाना चाहिए, यहां फ्लोट जाना चाहिए. अंडरस्टैंडिंग? ये अभी मॉडर्न पाइथन ने ऐसी फैसिलिटी दी है, बट normally as it's a loosely typed, you just give the list of parameters, means list of variable names, then colon, then the indented body, whatever task it is going to do, and at the end return some value. Okay, now what does the definition indicate? It indicates the name of your procedure, what parameters it is going to take, what task it is going to perform. Okay, and please remember this code won't get executed unless and until you call. जब तक कॉल नहीं करता है तब तक ये एग्जीक्यूट नहीं होगा. तो नेक्स्ट इज कॉलिंग. तो कॉलिंग कैसे करो? यू आर मेंशनिंग द फंक्शन नेम, राउंड ब्रैकेट, देन यू आर पासिंग द आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. आर्ग्यूमेंट्स आर कॉपीड इन दिस पैरामीटर. ये जो भी आर्ग्यूमेंट है वो ये पैरामीटर में कॉपी होता है. देन द कंट्रोल गोज देयर, then it executes, and when the function is over, the control come back and continue with the remaining code. इसके आगे का जो भी कोड है, it will continue. ठीक है? So calling means requesting it to get executed. Understanding? At the end, it will return some value. If it is returning, you can collect it in the variable. अगर वो कुछ रिटर्न कर रहा है some value, तो वो वैल्यू इस वेरिएबल में आके स्टोर हो जाएगी. ठीक है? तो कॉलिंग मीन्स रिक्वेस्ट फॉर फंक्शन एग्जीक्यूशन. सो व्हेनेवर इट इज कॉल्ड, द कंट्रोल गोज देयर wherever the function is. The code execute, and when the function is over, the control come back. कंट्रोल वापस आ जाएगा. कहा? जहां कॉल किया था. एंड जहां कॉल किया वहां आने के बाद उसके अगला वाला कोड कंटिन्यू करेगा. इट विल कंटिन्यू रनिंग द नेक्स्ट कोड. ठीक है? I hope it is clear. See, so def is a keyword, and this def keyword indicates that the definition of a function is starting. Def keyword defines the function and is mandatory to create functions in Python. कोई भी function बनाना है तो ये function name देना जरूरी है. At the end there is return, which is not compulsory. It's optional. But if you are using return, then using that you can return some value back. Correct? Return keyword returns some value after the operation, but it is optional. Return के ऊपर in detail बात करेंगे, don't worry. ठीक है? We are going to talk in detail about return. Okay, and then we will take some examples also, don't worry. First is about the parameters. Okay, now you can call it as arguments or you can call it as parameter. कुछ बुक्स में इनका कहना है कि जब कॉल करते हो तो वो आर्ग्यूमेंट्स है, एंड जहां डिफाइन किया है एंड डेफिनेशन में वो रिसीव करेगा, दैट आर पैरामीटर्स. करेक्ट? So these are arguments, they are parameter. And some books say you can use any word interchangeably, argument या parameter कुछ भी बोलो, but जहां define किया है वहां जो values आने वाले, wherever you have defined where the values are going to come, they are called as formals, or you can also call them as dummy. Correct? And when you're calling at that time, whatever you pass, they are called as actuals. Correct? So actuals are the values which you pass at the time of call. And formals are the parameters which are used within the definition. Definition के अंदर जो values आप use करोगे उसको formal कहते हैं. Correct? So what are parameters? So parameters are the values which you pass at the time of call or which you use inside the definition. डेफिनेशन के अंदर जो वैल्यूज आप यूज करते हो या कॉल के समय जो पास करते हो उसको हम पैरामीटर कहेंगे. ओनली वी आर क्लैरिफाइंग इट एट द टाइम ऑफ कॉल व्हाट यू गिव दे आर एक्चुअल्स, एंड इन द डेफिनेशन एग्जांपल देखो, यहां मैंने लिखा है डेफ एबीसी एंड यहां कुछ लिखा है एक्स एंड वाई. ठीक है? तो दीज वेरिएबल्स व्हिच हैव रिटन हियर एक्स एंड वाई, they are parameters. They are going to receive some value. इसमें कुछ value आने वाला है. And these variables you are using inside the definition. अंदर, body के अंदर use करोगे. And whenever you call it, that time also you pass some value. Get it? They are also parameters. So values which you pass at the time of call or the values which you use inside the definition. Definition के अंदर जो आप यूज करते हो एंड कॉलिंग के समय आप जो पास कर दो उसको हम क्या कहते हैं? पैरामीटर. करेक्ट? ओनली एट द टाइम ऑफ कॉल दे आर कॉल्ड एज एक्चुअल्स, एंड इन द डेफिनेशन व्हाट यू रिसीव दे आर कॉल्ड एज फॉर्मल्स. ठीक है? इसको फॉर्मल कहेंगे. व्हाई? बिकॉज दे आर ओनली विद इन दैट फंक्शन बॉडी, वो बॉडी के अंदर ही. ठीक है? एंड कॉलिंग के समय जो पास करते हैं उसको एक्चुअल कहेंगे. राइट? नाउ व्हाट दोस पैरामीटर्स? सो पैरामीटर्स आर वैल्यूज that are provided while defining the function or during function call. कॉल के समय अगर आपने कुछ वैल्यूज प्रोवाइड किए हैं उसको भी पैरामीटर ही कहेंगे. कॉल के समय अगर आपने कुछ वैल्यूज प्रोवाइड किए तो दे आर ऑल्सो पैरामीटर्स ओनली. एंड डेफिनेशन में जो वैल्यूज आप रिसीव करते हैं दे आर ऑल्सो पैरामीटर. ओनली वी विल कॉल देम एज फॉर्मल एंड एक्चुअल. ठीक है? तो एक्चुअल किसको कहेंगे? विच यू पास एट द टाइम ऑफ कॉल. कॉल के समय जो पास करोगे वो एक्चुअल. ठीक है? एंड जहां डिफाइन किया है उनको हम फॉर्मल कहेंगे. ठीक है? और डमी ऑल्सो, दे आर कॉल्ड एज डमी. एंड प्लीज रिमेंबर देयर स्कोप इज ओनली विद इन दैट फंक्शन. ठीक है? वो फंक्शन के अंदर ही उसका स्कोप है. ओके? सी, so when we provide the values during the function call, जब मैं कॉल करता हूं तब मैं जो वैल्यूज प्रोवाइड करता हूं, the values that are to be operated on, okay, then those values are called as actual parameters और arguments भी कहते हैं. उसको arguments भी कहा जाता है या actuals. And when we provide values during the function definition, फंक्शन डेफिनेशन में यही वैल्यू जब रिसीव कर दे, एंड दोज विच वी आर गोइंग टू यूज इनसाइड द बॉडी, बॉडी के अंदर यूज करने वाले, उनको हम फॉर्मल कहते हैं. Getting? As an example, I'll show you. See, हमने इधर डिफाइन किया एक फंक्शन, फंक्शन का नेम है add, def add, and we are passing two parameters to it, num1, num2. Num1 and num2 are two parameters. So tell me, these two variables are going to receive some value, and these two variables are used within the body. Therefore, they will be called formal. See, when we provide values during the definition, ये define हो रहा है, and those values which are used inside the definition, they are called formal. तो ये दो वैल्यूज आ गए रहेंगे, उसको ऐड करके एक टेम्पररी वेरिएबल में रखा, अंदर एक टेम्पररी वेरिएबल क्रिएट किया, एंड देन आई एम रिटर्निंग दैट वैल्यू. ठीक है, एंड नाउ आई एम कॉलिंग दैट फंक्शन. देखो मैंने कॉल किया ऐड, एंड आई एम पासिंग 5 and 6. So when you're calling, that time what you pass, they are called as actual. See, when we provide the values during function call, and these values will be passed here, and on that the operation will take place. देखो ये 5 किस में आएगा, num1, 6 किस में आएगा, num2. So now num1 will collect 5 value, num2 will collect 6, 5 plus 6 11, and फिर वो हम return कर रहे हैं. Whatever is returned will come here, and that 11 we are giving to print, and print will display that 11 on the monitor. Now in this case, tell me num1 and num2 are which variables? Formal parameters. Okay, and here at the time of call, what you are passing 5 and 6, they are called as actuals. All actuals are copied in that formal. जब फंक्शन कॉल होगा तो ये एक्चुअल फॉर्मल में जाएगा, 5 num1 में, 6 num2 में, एडिशन होगा एंड रिटर्न होगा. ठीक है, ओके. नाउ अबाउट रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट ऑल्सो वी विल डिस्कस. बिफोर दैट, just a quick example of this. Suppose we do it in VS Code. Now we have used VS Code also. ठीक है, someone in one day someone asked me that what editor you're using in the beginning, now you're using something else. So that problem is because you don't attend the sessions regularly, and session regularly attend करते ये एक problem, and दूसरा जो videos देता हूँ वो भी watch नहीं करते, then you don't remain in connection, no? Right or no? मुझे लगता है इनिशियली मैंने आइडल में काम किया था, देन इन बिटवीन when we learned loops and all, then I showed you how to install VS Code, and then VS Code. Then when we started with data structures, right, list and tuple and all, that time I went to Colab. तो मैंने गूगल कोलैब पे मैंने काम कैसे करना है दिखाया. तो I've shown you how to go to Colab and do the work. So if you are regular, consistent, then never you'll face this problem. Okay, we will open our folder only. I think Python programs only. See, these are few programs. Now what I'll do is I'll create, close all. Quickly I'll create one file. Time. Okay, see, func1.py, right? I'm defining one function, add, to which I'll be passing two arguments, num1, num2. Then in some result, I'm storing that num1, num2. It's not mandatory you have to store it in value. You can directly return also. Return value. And now you can call it. See, I'm calling print add 10, 20. Okay? Print add, and you're calling again add, and here you're passing 4, 5 plus 10 and another add I'm calling with 5, 6 suppose. Accordingly it will do. ठीक है? Ideally it should work. Let's see. It should work. Let's see. I'm calling add again. Passing 4, 5. Some brackets are missing. Okay. First, we'll just run this. Then we will check. Okay. Python and func1.py. See, is it returning 30? Okay. Same way, you can do it like this. Print, add, and then again I'm calling add with 10, 20 or 4, 5. And second add I'm calling with value 20, 30 plus 5 suppose. See, it's working. So first it will call this add 4, 5, which will bring and give you 9, right? Then this 20 and 30, which will bring and give you 50. Now 50 plus 5 will become 55. And this 9 and 55 will go to add, which will give you 64, right? So this way, you can call it any number of times. Does it give you 64? Yes. 4 plus 5 is 9. 20 plus 30 is 50. 50 plus 5 is 55. Now this 9 and 55 will go to this add. And this add will return addition of 9 and 55, which is 64. ठीक है? तो this way you can call it any number of time. एक बार define किया तो चाहिए उतनी बार आप उसको क्या कर सकते हो? Call. ठीक है? Is it clear? Then we have return statement. Okay. Return statement. Please remember return statement is like a flow transfer instruction. जैसे break है, continue है. As we have break or we have continue. Same way, there is a return statement. And whenever in a function body, whatever the function is, okay, function body, within the function body, if your Python interpreter encounters return, correct, it will simply stop the execution of the procedure. जैसे break होता है, break stops the execution of function, sorry, loop, same way return will stop the execution. तो इसके बाद अगर कुछ रहेगा भी execute नहीं होगा. So whenever in the function body, your Python interpreter encounters return, it will stop executing the function and takes the control back to the caller. जहां call किया है वहां control चला जाएगा. And optionally, it can return some value also. Means ऐसा जरूरी नहीं कि return के बाद value आना चाहिए. You can just write only return or you can write return with some value also. Get it? So basic, what does return do? Stops execution of the function. Terminates execution of the function. So within the function body, if return encountered, execution of the function is stopped. And the control is returned back to the place wherever it is called. जहां कहीं call किया वहां control चला जाएगा. And after bringing the control there, it may return some value also if you want. अगर सिर्फ return लिख रहा है तो it's not returning anything. रिटर्न वैल्यू है तो इट इज रिटर्निंग ऑल्सो सम वैल्यू बैक टू द कॉलर. जो कोई उसको कॉल कर रहा है, इट इज गिविंग सम वैल्यू ऑल्सो बैक टू द कॉलर. Getting? So about return statement, return is a flow transfer statement, same like break, continue. Whenever return is encountered in the body, what will happen? Execution of the procedure is stopped. Getting? See, during execution of function in the function body, if return statement is encountered, the execution of function is stopped and the control is transferred to the place where function was called. ठीक है? Execution is stopped and the control goes back to the place wherever function is called. जैसे अभी मैंने कहा कि add था, ठीक है? You pass some value. Control goes to that add. It executes. And at the end, what is coming? Return. So control come back to the place where it is called. And where it is called, it will return also some value. You can collect it and proceed ahead. It will continue executing ahead. ठीक है? Return statement is optional. No, sorry, means in every procedure you need to have return. Is not necessary. Correct? Return हर function में होना चाहिए, ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं. And function returning some value is also optional. रिटर्न खुद ही ऑप्शनल है एंड रिटर्न रहेगा तो रिटर्न के बाद सम वैल्यू भी ऑप्शनल है. सो रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट कैन ऑप्शनली रिटर्न सम वैल्यू. See, it is not mandatory within every function definition. Now you'll say if the function is not returning anything and still if I want to check what it returns none, guys. हमेशा क्या रिटर्न करेगा? None. ठीक है? And if there is any code after return, never it will execute. रिटर्न के बाद अगर कुछ कोड है तो वो कभी रन नहीं होगा. See, if we are not writing any return statement, then by default it returns none. ठीक है? इसका एग्जाम्पल मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम दिखाऊंगा कि we will not write return and check what it is returning. It will return none. Or I'll write some statement, return, and again I'll write some statement. तो return के बाद के statement कभी execute नहीं होंगे. So that also I'll show you. ठीक है? So that as an example I'll do it and show you. Okay guys?